It appears another Trump tape has dropped, the former president interfering in the 2020 election at the state level. The Detroit News has reported that they have come into possession of a phone call featuring Trump attempting to pressure election workers in Michigan not to sign certification papers of the election, which would have, again, caused a lot of chaos in the presidential race. So now, the call took place on November 17th, 2020, and included the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, and two Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, Monica Palmer and the late William Hartman. In the call, Trump told the canvassers that they would look terrible if they signed the papers to certify the election after having previously voted against certification. So they had already said, well, we're not going to vote against it, or we're not going to vote for the certification unless there's some sort of audit or recount or whatever, right? So this actually happened before the call. Now, during the call, Trump said, we've got to fight for our country. We can't let these people take our country away from us. McDaniel told the pair also not to sign the document and said, don't worry. We will give you legal help. We will get you attorneys. We'll take care of that, said Trump. Wow. Oh, we're going to get you some lawyers because, what we're doing is wrong. Hey, you know what else is wrong? Promising legal protection to people in exchange for them not doing their job. Sounds like a bribe to me. And no wonder Palmer, when asked, couldn't remember what the president and her talked about in this phone call. During an interview in September of 2021, Palmer told the U.S. House Select Committees to investigate the January 6th attack that she could not recall the exact words that Trump used on the call and whether he even raised any issues related to the election. What? She also described the contents of the call with Trump as being like, oh, well, thank you for your service. I'm glad you were safe. Have a good night. It's like an 11-minute call. She's like, oh, yeah, I don't remember. You know what? We didn't really talk about anything of consequence, anything of substance related to the election. No, we didn't talk. I don't remember any of that. What are you talking about? So wait, you're a member of the Board of Canvassers in a very important swing state. And the President of the United States just calls you up after a meeting, right, after a hearing to certify the results of the election, and you don't remember what you talked about?
Really?
You expect us to buy this BS story? No. Hell no. Look, according to the tape, a lot of it, the majority of it focused on the 2020 election. Segments of the call reviewed by the news didn't include comments from Trump, where he had allegedly said, "Oh, yeah, thank you for your service. Have a good night. Glad glad you're safe." No, none of that. Instead, here's what he said: Republicans have been cheated on this election, and everybody knows Detroit is crooked as hell. Again, this happened in Wayne County. McDaniel also said that if Hartman and Palmer certified the election without forcing an audit, the public would, quote, never know what happened in Detroit. Never know what happened. How can anybody sign something when you have more votes than people? Trump asked the canvassers. Yeah. And look, about 13 hours after the call, Trump posted on social media about Wayne County, claiming that there were more votes than people. The only problem with that, of course, is that it was wrong. That's not true. There were only out-of-balance precincts in Detroit where there were mismatches between the number of ballots counted and the number of voters tracked, which is not evidence itself of fraud. In fact, Jonathan Brader, Michigan's election director, said in an affidavit that the overall difference citywide in absentee ballots tabulated and names in poll books was about 150, and said that there were fewer ballots tabulated than names in the poll books. If ballots had been illegally counted, there would be substantially more, not slightly fewer ballots tabulated than names in the poll books. So, just complete and utter nonsense coming from Trump. Getting back to the call, I want to get more to details about how it went down. The timeline here is very, very important. Okay, so Palmer and Hartman, they go to this meeting, right? This hearing to certify the election. Now they initially voted against it. Okay, then they later voted in favor of it with the promise that there was going to be an audit. Okay? They then left the meeting, and in the parking lot, they received the call from Donald Trump. Okay? After that call, they decided not to sign the certification statement, and the next day tried to take back their vote in favor of certification. So they said, never mind. I mean, not only did we not sign it or sign off on it, but we decided that we're just going to, ask for our vote back. We're going to vote to not certify. Well, too bad. You've already voted to certify. The Michigan Bureau of Elections determined that Palmer and Hartman's signatures weren't even needed to advance the election certification. And they couldn't take back their vote. So the election in Michigan ended up being certified. And of course, investigations afterwards showed that there was no fraud, no mass voter fraud in Michigan. But here's the thing. You know what this sounds like from Trump? Election interference. It's the exact same thing he tried to do in Georgia. Okay? So obviously, another piece of evidence showing that Donald Trump had tried to pressure state election officials to overturn an election he knew he lost. He's doing everything he could to do this pressure campaign, to pressure officials into giving him votes that he didn't earn. Okay? And this kind of sounds like also that there was some bribery involved. Again, promising, we're going to give you lawyers, we're going to pay for them, we're going to give you legal help for you to not do your job. No, that's a bribe to me. And there's also the pressure, again, the implied threat of, you're going to look terrible if you don't do this. Add in the two lying to Congress later on about the contents of the call. After trying to do what they were pressured to do by Trump, you got a pretty serious case against Palmer, McDaniel, and of course, obviously, Donald Trump.